internet, not shouting into my mic anymore because some people complained about their precious ear holes. How you all doing tonight? I'm Sneaky Devil. I'm joined by Atin, and this is Fanfiction Contempt Theater. Max is dead to us.
No, not dead to us, just dead.
He's never dead as long as he lives in our hearts.
Who are we talking about?
Yeah, that's a good point. Anyway, as always, the fan fiction we cover, at no point in time should you contact the authors of these fictions, because that might be construed as harassment, which is against the rules. Not my rules.
Also,
other people's
don't
rules.
do that. You're a dick if you harass people.
Well, if they ask for it. Well,
no,
Leslie.
Harassment is wrong. All the time. Stop ruining my blanket statements that will keep us out of trouble, you half-wit.
Pass. And as always, you can find the fictions we cover in the Discord, which is linked down below. The big old controller symbol, I believe it is, or the D. I forget what the panel looks like at this point, but it's there. I promise you, it's there. Just click on
it's the Discord symbol.
So this is a Spider-Man worm crossover. Really esoteric.
No, Sneaky, it's just the Discord symbol. Not a D, just like the creepy little two-eyed thing.
The game controller?
No, I always thought it was a weird face. Yeah, I guess it is a game controller, but it doesn't have any face buttons, so that's why I didn't think it was a controller.
Well, I'm pretty sure that's because the joysticks are those holes. Like, they didn't put any buttons in there because they didn't want to, like, be sued by any company.
Well, yeah, but you could still put, like, you could have still cut out, like, you still could have cut out 4 circles. Like, they can't sue you for 4 circles. They could sue you if you had, like, triangle, square, X, Y, or whatever, if you did a company's layout, but...
I guess. Maybe they're trying to go for super simplistic. Who knows?
Anyway.
Point being, I'm kind of surprised I haven't seen Worm Spider-Man before. I mean, there's a couple out there, they're all shit.
Let's see if this one fits the bill.
It does.
Spoiler, it probably will.
Things are strange after the locker. Taylor doesn't need to breathe, can sense danger from a mile away, and has a hunger for chocolate. And there's a voice in her head that wants to make her a hero. Or the one where Taylor makes a friend in the locker.
Okay, so just right off the bat, a couple of things that confuse me. Why is the H capitalized? That's like the tiniest nitpick that can be...
Because she has a hunger for chocolate.
But also, doesn't need to breathe. Now, look, it has been a while. I haven't read the most recent iteration of Spider-Man with Miles Morales because I'm poor and can't afford comic books and don't want to steal them. But throughout, how long has Spider-Man been around? 50 years, Sneaky?
Something like that.
Throughout the 50 years of Spider-Man, he's always needed to breathe. At no point was not breathing.
Well, no, this is Venom, keep in mind.
Oh,
this isn't Spider-Man.
Venom.
This is Venom. The symbiote.
Regardless,
this is the problem. That's why she has a hunger for chocolate, because like that's how symbiotes eat. That's how they catalyze energy. Right. It's chocolate, the blood of foes, and something else or whatever.
But even with Venom, breathing is not optional. Breathing is still required.
See, like, that's the thing, though, is I believe the description is implying Taylor became the symbiote.
Okay, I mean, if Taylor became the symbiote, how would that work, though? Because is Taylor going to be latching onto someone else?
Because, like, here's the thing. It says, Taylor doesn't need to breathe, can sense danger, has an insatiable hunger for chocolate. Not, like, the symbiote's the one with the hunger for chocolate, not the person. And, this is the key part. There's a voice in her head that wants to make her a hero. which makes it sound like the Taylor thinks she's the symbiote, but it's also Taylor, the person. Like the voice.
Oh, so she thinks she's both. So she's actually still Taylor, but she thinks she's the symbiote.
Yeah. Like that's what I'm getting. That's what I'm getting.
Interesting possibilities.
That's what I'm getting. What's implied by the way the sentence is structured.
And this is something important to point out. If that's the case, then it should not have the Spidey sense, because the symbiote only acquired the Spidey sense from being on Spidey.
Yeah.
Now it can grant the spider sense to anyone who's on it, to anyone who's currently wearing the symbiote, but if it never is on Spider-Man, it would never have the Spidey sense.
Anyway, so that
This
was
is the best conversation I've ever walked into.
Not the weirdest, Max. Not the weirdest.
No, the best. This is the best one in
the
recent
best.
memory.
He's walked into some pretty weird ones before, I will admit.
Yes.
Oh, never mind. Twitch is going to give me a weird ad in place.
What kind of ad?
Caveman trying to figure out how to build furniture. Conan Exiles. I'll give you points for creativity, guys. That was weird.
Right. Anyway. Beta by Carlo Magno 2. Wow. You might want to get your refund back, my dude.
Oh, you say, well, now we know who to address our complaints. That is a joke. Do not address any complaints to this individual. Once again, that would be harassment.
Brockton Bay is a place like few others. Wasn't a big settlement when the 13 original colonies popped up, and had been a pirate port for years before Nassau became the go-to place for smugglers and the like. No, I know the area. Like, I have been through the town that Brockton Bay in Worm is based off of. There is an actual town where it's based out of, in Worm. In real life, there is a town called Brockton there. It's a town, not a city. And yeah, no, it's no. This is just made up history of Brockton Bay now. Like, this is made up history for a made up town. Completely separate tracks as well. So this is made up fanon for made up canon of real life.
Okay, but like, who cares? Like, so they're trying to add a little bit of flavor.
Except it's dumb flavor. If it's like, oh, well, it was a smuggler's port, I'd be like, oh, okay, smuggler's port, I can believe that. That was a very common thing in the seaside of New Jersey.
Yes.
But a pirate base? Next to Boston? Next to New York City? Even in the 13 colonies, that wouldn't have been tolerated.
I mean, it depends on how blatant they like. Let's say this was hypothetically run by intelligent pirates, then by Boston and New York City is a great place to be.
I mean,
because
yes,
it's the only place you can sell your goods.
But it's also an inlet, and like the direct path between Boston and New York. Like, you would actually have to actively avoid the area to not pass through it.
Oh, well then never mind that stuff.
Like I said, I know the area. I've been through there.
Then yeah.
And on top of that, pirates only came around after the privateers hired by the British in the Caribbean happened. Which was way later. Or before. I'm kind of flaky on the time spans of that. But I do believe the Caribbean pirates were 1800s, if I'm not wrong. Am I wrong there, or am I right there?
I don't know.
I wouldn't.
Ever since I looked
Hang
at the
on.
history.
Let me go bother. Let me go bother a pirate nerd. Oh, never mind. He's set to do not disturb. You fucking cunt.
1700s.
One time I need
okay.
you.
So yeah, the 1700s. Okay. Still. Way later. Pirates wasn't even a thing in the New World till way later. Yes, you had people that did raids and shit, but they weren't pirates. Capital P.
True.
This is. I realize I'm making a mountain out of a molehill, but this is the sort of thing that gets me super irritated. Just like the fucking the guns description we had previously, and the time with Naruto and the food thing. It's like you could have just glossed over this, and I wouldn't given a fuck about it. But because you decided to sit down and to my face blatantly pull shit out of your ass, now I have to call you on it. If you had just said nothing and moved the fuck on, I wouldn't have said anything. But now I have to call you on it. Because now you're pulling shit out of your ass and saying, hey look, it's gold.
Alright, so we've registered his distaste.
Anyway.
Let us move on.
Blah blah. Boston had been a better port with less unsavory characters. You've clearly never been to Boston. It was like Providence.
Author! Have you ever set foot in Boston? I have. I had to go through Boston frequently to get out of Vermont, because Vermont has a shitty airport that's always covered in snow. Surprise. I had to stay in Boston overnight one time. I was terrified I would die, because the hotel I went to, like, there was nothing wrong with it. It was like, it had like a decent reviews, and it was actually a very nice lobby when I went in. And it was like, it was all dark, and I was like, this is a horror movie. I'm gonna be murdered in here.
Yeah, I mean, Boston is an unsavory place.
In addition to that, Boston is also designed by an asshole, so that you cannot possibly navigate Boston correctly, because every road winds around and loops in on itself.
That's because
13
Boston
times.
wasn't designed. Boston was an
I'm
organic
aware
city.
Boston wasn't designed. I'm aware that Boston is a shitty city that never got rebuilt, because unlike Chicago, it never burned to the ground. Chicago burned to the ground, and guess what? We're a better city for it, because you can find where the fuck you're going.
Better! Anyway, much like Providence, considered a town famous for its old school gangsters and famous for its ports. Old school gangsters in Boston?
What? No! Now you listen here, motherfuckers. Gangsters is Chicago territory. You get the fuck out.
Gangster, yeah. The mob, that was New Jersey. Gangsters, Chicago. The time for
And
Boston to burn.
for people who think the mob and gangsters are the same thing, you're lucky it's not the 1940s, or you'd be dead.
Yeah. Come to me. In a time of need. Anyway, Allfather was the first parahuman gang leader to settle in Brockton. That's false. The Teeth soon followed.
Who was it then?
It was Marquise.
Oh, that's right, Marquis.
The Teeth followed, and other nameless gangs sprung from the earth to make names for themselves, expanded by challenging them for territory. Oh, challenging the Teeth and Allfather, okay. Interestingly enough, they were cut down soon after they emerged. That's not interesting enough.
That's okay, this person's never even like flipped through a history book, because if you'd ever flipped through like the Prohibition era, or like any point where crime was rampant in America, you'd have been like, oh yes, the big gang leaders murdered the living hell out of their competition. Valentine's Day Massacre.
Yeah. Basically the difference between the mob families and gangsters, where gangsters were sort of a derivative, the mob families were very much families. They were specific families of people related by blood. Gangsters were less so. They were
And gangsters were more of a, and this is going to sound incredibly dumb to say, but gangsters were more of an equal opportunity employer.
yeah. The mob
Like
families
in
were
the
very
mob,
much.
you could only go so high if
Yeah.
you were not part of the family. Like the operations at the top always stayed at the top unless one of the kids was grossly incompetent, and then they
Yeah.
would be killed.
Yeah, the mob families were sort of in competition with each other, but they sort of also had agreements with each other to stay out of each other's business. I say sort of because
They still tried to get in each other's way, but
yeah,
they kept it on the down
you also had a
low,
lot
tried
of
to keep
backstabbing
cops out.
within the mob, at least. You know, the Boardwalk Empire was actually a fairly faithful reproduction. It was a Netflix special, I think it was.
Yeah. Boardwalk Empire is great.
It was a very accurate as far as TV shows go, very accurate representation of the New Jersey boardwalk and the sort of shit that went down there. New Jersey is famous for its boardwalk, for the boardwalk. Also burns down quite often.
Side note, the boardwalk sounds like a really shitty stand. Max, go ahead and figure out what the powers of the boardwalk are, okay?
I don't think it would have one unless there's a song called The Boardwalk. So
The boardwalk is unbreakable.
that's one of the rules of stands, is that they're named after an album or a band or a song.
I'm sure
I
it
am almost
exists.
positive there's a song for the
Oh,
boardwalk.
The Drifters,
Yeah.
Under the Boardwalk.
Yeah.
Yeah, I was like, the boardwalk is such generic sounding nonsense. Someone made a song.
Well, I
with
mean, not only that, it's very famous in New Jersey. Like, it was actually sort of a big thing. It's one of our big tourism attractions in New Jersey. Anything you want to tell us? Do you make people swim with the fishes? Well, I cannot confirm nor deny any statements, but let me tell you, you talk to anyone about this and you will be finding out how much I know about the mob.
and like people think like the mob was so long ago. Like it really
It's still a
wasn't.
thing.
Like it's still a thing, but like the mob, gangsters, the mafia, like there are still, well, they might be dead now, but back when I was in 8th grade, like a couple of my classmates, because we had to do like a presentation on like the prohibition, and a couple of my classmates were like, "Oh yeah, my grandfather was in the Chicago mob." Like it really wasn't that long ago.
Yeah, no, it was like fucking hell. Back in like 10th-ish grade, no, I had a couple of classmates who like fathers and uncles worked in the mob. Still very much a thing.
And I was gonna say, and it's in a very weird spot because it's kind of gotten to a point now where almost like the Japanese Yakuza, it's almost like a respectable thing at this point. Because for the most part, large criminal organizations in America have put the civil back in civil offender.
Well, I mean, yeah, because if all the people you're racketeering die, then you're not getting money from them anymore.
Right, I'm just saying, like, you don't read about about things like the Valentine's Day Massacre anymore because that's bad for business.
Yeah. Anyway, back to the topic of this author knowing jack fucking all about the Northeast and me being highly
Max,
offended.
Let us know when you figure out what the powers of the boardwalk are.
War spread like a wildfire until eventually a villain going by the name of Marquise managed to force a tentative peace between the gangs. He was a legend among us Brocktonites. What perspective is this being fucking told by? who at the time viewed him as the only sane parahuman in this city. He was the only parahuman in his entire gang. False. But the number of regulars that joined him helped him drive the other gangs away if they ever became too rowdy. No, he ruled through fear. Canonically, he ruled through fear, killed a shit ton of people brutally, and everyone's like, wow, we shouldn't piss him off.
And then he got put in the birdcage.
Yep. Willingly, by the way. Allowed
Yes.
himself to be.
Yes.
He used his mafia, incorrect wording, to effectively control the E88, false, drive out the teeth, true, and even repel the Slaughter House 9. What are they, a fucking punk band? Not punk band, fucking hell. House band? They
Apparently.
gonna go listen to some house music? Swedish House Mafia, eh? The Slaughterhouse 9? But like all good things, it didn't last. With the advent of the gangs came heroes. Advent of the gangs? What? Yeah, the gangs just popped up one day. The city had no gangs before that. And suddenly one day, there were gangs. Jesus fucking Christ, author.
Well, he's also, like, I'm pretty sure he's not quite using that correctly.
Yeah, he's not.
Like,
well,
if they said, like, the advent of
Marquise, that would make
superpowered
sense.
gangs.
with the advent of the tentative peace, you know, gave time for the heroes to form together, you know, to organize or something like that. You know, like something less retarded than pulling more shit out of your ass and calling it gold. The Brockton Bay Brigade, the city's first homegrown team. I'm pretty sure the PRT was already there. And the PRT
I was gonna say,
usually
the PRT was
hires
established
in city.
super early on because, and this is something people tend to overlook. In pretty much all good superhero stories, this includes Worm. They cover the government involvement very, very quickly, and they all run along roughly the same lines of the government knows any registered hero's identity, and those heroes are kept under careful watch, and they can be held accountable in court, but they're allowed to have a secret identity for their own protection and their families.
Yeah. Yeah, like I'm just disgruntled by the wording. The city's first homegrown team. Again, I am fairly certain there were other teams before this, just not as effective, and they all died.
No, I thought Brockton Bay Brigade was the first home team that like came out with their identities.
They were the first hero team that came out with their identities.
I'm gonna go look on the wiki.
They took down Marquise in his own home and became New Wave. Wow, that's a massive oversimplification of what happened. They were, for a time, the largest alliance of heroes to ever grace the city. I'll let it pass. They believed in parahuman accountability and decried the Protectorate as a shield for some of the shady villains turned heroes. Yes, okay, true. And for their troubles, an all-father fanatic decided that was a good idea to kill one of them to send a message. No, when did that happen, actually? I'm fairly certain that did not happen under Allfather.
I don't remember that happening under Allfather. I mean, it might have. We could just be remembering wrong.
Timeline. Newfoundland, London, Smurg. Nilbog. Yeah, wow. Oh, Jesus Christ. Marquise captured 2000 of August. New Wave form 2001. I'm sorry, November. Fucking, where's Allfather? How long ago was Allfather?
He was the 90s, wasn't he?
Okay, unfortunately the timeline doesn't have anything about the 8088 in it, which is really unfortunate. But, there's a lot of events that happen in a very short period of time. Anyway, point being, pretty sure they're wrong on this. They've been wrong on a lot of shit so far. I'm pretty sure they're continuing to butcher this shit. And the backstory of Worm. Yeah, it's a very good, very long story, but very good.
Anyway.
Okay. Asshole gets crucified by Kaiser, but let's just say Brockton Bay doesn't have as many colorful heroes as we used to. What?
What?
Sure, we've got the Protectorate, but most of them aren't from Brockton Bay.
That what? No, that's not how the Protectorate works.
No, I mean it is, but that's also patently false. All of the wards before Taylor gets really involved in the story, all of the wards are from Brockton Bay. Armsmaster is from Brockton Bay. Piggott, I believe, is from the northeast at minimum. I'm not sure about Brockton Bay, but minimum northeast. Because she served against Nilbog.
Right.
Like, Miss Militia is the only one that isn't from Brockton Bay, but she emigrated to Brockton Bay.
And in the spirit of America, that makes her part of Brockton Bay.
Calvin hasn't heard of Worm. Shame on you for not introducing to him. No, I've introduced Worm to him before. He's just refused to read it.
Introduced to what?
Calvin to Worm.
Yeah, anyway.
Anyway, so...
no, Calvin, there's not a character known as
that.
asshole. The author's just capitalizing the A because it's the beginning of the sentence. Which they should not have done. They should have put a comma there to make it less confusing.
Or asshole got crucified, because that's not even the proper tense. New Wave still has a lot of support around these parts, but controversy that still surrounds their role in Brockton Bay and the fall of Marquise. Few openly defend Marquise, but he was the lesser of all the evils that plagued Brockton Bay, and people still remember the relative peace he brought. And that's because he was like a fucking 40s era gangster.
Yeah, he was a proper gangster.
That and the whole, step out of line and I'll kill anyone you love. That tends to make someone memorable. Just putting that out there.
I believe Velocity was from Brockton Bay. Assault definitely wasn't, but I believe Battery was as well. Like I said, I believe. We never quite got confirmation, but we do know for a fact Assault 100% wasn't from Brockton Bay. Velocity was more or less the Flash. Yeah. Yeah, and yeah, Militia was Kurdish, child soldier who got rescued and then emigrated to the U.S. and then moved to Brockton Bay. So you can't really be like, oh, she's not a Brockton Bay native. It's like she wasn't even in the fucking country. So. Blah blah. The fact that New Wave and the Protectorate are not even able to guarantee the same stability Marquise brought only further harms their support. However, as of now, they are the lesser of all new evils by a wide margin. Okay, so this is apparently this is supposed to be apparently a first-person introspective moment from the main character.
Yeah, I figured that out only by reading ahead.
I would just like to say that is dumb. That is the dumbest way to start a story, especially because who the fuck goes around like, oh yeah, I'm on the bus. I look out the window. Brockton Bay was certainly pretty awesome way back in the day when it was used as a pilot. Like, who the fuck just thinks about the history of their city when they're doing shit? Unless it's about the history of their city.
For God's sake, at least have a history. At least have the tired ass trope of a history teacher say, and now go read pages 733 to page 844 in your book.
Yeah, look, I rail against cliches fairly often, but there's a reason why they're used sometimes. It's because it's useful in writing. Is it cliche that a teacher is assigning homework or talking about a subject and the student snaps back into focus now that we've explained the setting? Yeah? Is it useful and good? If done properly, yeah.
See, that's one of the things we have to stress on is that all these things can work when they're done correctly. We try to suggest alternatives that take less skill to execute correctly. Beginning the story with first-person introspection is, I would say, the third or fourth hardest thing you can do to open a story.
Especially if you're about to go freeze frame, I bet you're wondering how I got into this. Yeah, Isley, we've covered a couple of Captain's stories before. They are, honestly, not too bad. If you discount the fact that he is German and English is not his first language, so there was a bit of a muck up there. But,
honestly, it was still better than most of what we read on this website.
Yeah, more or less. Where are the blah 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 blah. New Wave had lost its teeth once Fleur died, and the gangs were worse than ever. Brockton Bay had been going down the drain since before the parahumans made their claim. They were just the nails in the coffin, and Leviathan was dirt atop the casket. Well, that's not exactly true. Brockton Bay is a city like few others, because no matter what happened, its people will never give up on it. Like Chicago.
No, that's not how it was.
Like
that's
Denver.
Not how it was framed in canon. In canon, it was framed as a bunch of people who were so completely out of options they couldn't leave.
Yeah.
Like later on, that did eventually turn to like an iron will, but
also it's that's still a thing. Like it's a very small portion of population of a city that will abandon it if things get bad. And it's usually because that's the super rich portion of the city that just like came there because they had good property and now it's going away they don't like, so they're going to go buy some property elsewhere. Like, everyone else is kind of like, well, I live here and I can't really leave. I mean, I can leave, but I would have to do a whole bunch of shit to uproot up my entire life. And this just seems like an easier option just to stay here. And that goes for a majority of the city population, in almost every city, at least in the U.S. So
yeah, it's like Chicago has a bunch of murders. Why do people stay? Well, because there's plenty of ways to avoid getting murdered. And it's a lot. Getting murdered is a lot. Avoiding murder is a lot less work than selling your house or your condo or getting out of your lease and finding a new job, packing all your stuff up, and getting a car and moving halfway across the country.
Yeah, like, oh, Brockton Bay is known for its iron will and people never giving up on the city. That's the same for nearly every town and nearly every city in America, at least again. Like, it's... I don't want to go ill. It's the same everywhere in the world, because I don't know other cultures in other parts of the world, but... Like, fucking Christ! Detroit!
Yeah, I was gonna say, let's talk about the city of Detroit for a minute. Now, I don't know if people outside the U.S. understand what Detroit is. So Detroit was a city that was wildly successful because it basically built all of America's cars. The overwhelming majority of U.S.-based cars were built in Detroit. Well, it's not U.S. cars anymore.
Hope comes to Brockton Bay.
So those jobs are all gone. And the city of Detroit has been since, what, Sneaky, 1980? 1970, I want to say?
So this is what Detroit looks like now, Calvin.
It's been in a downhill spiral.
Yeah.
Yeah.
The city of Detroit has been so hard up that these are just a couple of the articles I remember reading over the course of years, mind you. Years.
It is one of the most 10 deadliest cities to live in.
So, early on, their museum had to sell its stuff to try to help the city pay its bills. On at least 2 separate occasions, it has had to tell residents in the suburbs that they have to move further into the city because they cannot afford to send utilities out.
Yeah.
I am not even joking.
Detroit
They had to
isn't doing
literally
too hot.
pay people. They had to literally tell people, "I'm sorry, but you can't live in this house that's 40 miles outside the city anymore because we're shutting off electricity to this area."
Yeah, like it got real bad. It's like all the jobs left the place, but the people couldn't, and so shit just got bad. Anyway,
Let's be clear, shit remains bad.
yeah. They also are bulldozing a fifth of Detroit now, and it's like, yeah, Detroit's had issues. So again, this is just the author pulling more shit out of their ass and be like, hey, I heard this somewhere in Worm Canon, so it must be true. Maybe it would be considered true if it, was post Worm Canon. Yeah, you okay there, Max?
I'm just sitting here.
Because you're doing some really heavy breathing.
No, that's my air conditioning unit above me.
Calvin is amazed that they're bulldozing a fifth of Detroit, apparently.
Yeah.
That or he's responding to me having to say they had to shut off the utilities.
Oh, yeah, that too.
Probably that one.
No matter how hard us natives try to distance ourselves from the turmoil, the pain, and the general apathy, we can't just look away. I mean, yeah, actually, a lot of people do. This is our city, our home. It's in our blood. This is a very odd portrayal of Taylor. It's funny because no matter how much we complain about the state of Brockton, none of us really ever leave because we can't. Typically,
once again, the author seems to fundamentally misunderstand that, as it was shown in canon, like, for instance, let's take the dock workers union for an example, Sneaky.
Sure.
The dock workers union was dying, and the dock jobs were pretty much all dried up because you couldn't get out of the harbor anymore.
Right.
Now, this author seems to be under the impression that the dock workers said, well, we're not going to leave because we believe in Brockton Bay and it's our city and we don't want to leave. No, these are people who are out of work, whose kids are going hungry, who live in a gang-infested hell. They're not sticking around because they're trying to turn it around. They're stuck there. Author.
It's like, also on top
this
of
author
that,
doesn't seem to understand what poverty is.
Yeah. It also on top of that, there is several studies out there that point towards, like, was it 75-80% of people don't move outside of 50 miles of where they were born?
Yeah.
And so for a lot of people, it's like, well, I've lived here all my life, and at least I know this life. Yeah.
Yeah.
Anyway, so it's just we can't. The city is a part of us, but no one is perfect. Everyone has their thing. We are no exception. We understand how some of us can become monsters. Maybe it's a breakup. Semicolon. A death. That is an improper use of semicolon. An accident. That's an improper use of semicolon. That is an improper use of ellipses. Or an amalgamation of all that in a relatively short span of time. Whatever it is, you used to be one thing, now you're something else. We all have our own problems, and when I look at myself in the mirror, that becomes abundantly clear. Gone was the lanky beanpole frame I had inherited from my father, and in its place was an athletic build with rippling, tightly packed muscles and a flexibility I had never known. Slowly but surely, our personality began to change too. We couldn't risk allowing ourselves to be put in a position that caused my apparent trigger. Half eaten by insects, blood poisoned and hysterical. "3 weeks in and out of a hospital cause the doctors wanted to be sure there was nothing wrong while taking as much money from our dad as they legally could." Actually, the hospital cannot mandate you returning there. They can cite medical issues to keep you there for a law restricted amount of time, depending on where you are. Some areas it's 1 day, some areas it's 3, some areas it's a week, some areas it's a month. Really depends on the area you're in.
Oh, I was gonna say it depends on the area and the severity of what the person has been inflicted.
Yeah.
Like, if I get a concussion, they can keep. I believe in Illinois they can keep me for 24 hours maximum.
Yeah, like yes, they can keep you if you're already there, citing inability to make proper judgments based on medicine and injury. However, they can't say you must come back in. They can't.
They can say you should come back in a week, but if for whatever reason you don't want to or can't, nothing will happen.
Yeah, like just so let's go over what so far. They don't know worm cannon. They don't know U.S. history. They don't know They don't know the Northeast. They don't know anything about gangs. They don't know anything about poverty. They don't know anything about hospitals. They don't know anything about economics. What's next? Are they not going to know anything about Spider-Man?
Maybe.
2 weeks at Winslow had pushed our restraint to the absolute edge. I like how they're bolding R and we to be like, yo, look, she's got the symbiote.
No, I mean that was something.
I
did in the
know.
comics
That's what I'm
with
saying.
Eddie
I
Brock.
like how he's doing that, but it's just like maybe you should spend less time making sure your R's and W's are bolded and more time making sure your information is correct. It's like baking a cake poorly and then spending extra time to design it just right and give those flower petals just the right shade of magenta. It's like maybe you should spend more time making sure the cake didn't come out half cooked. We are Venom. Is this a mask fic? No, that's Venom. That's Spider-Man. We literally couldn't afford it. Wait, no. I meant to say I meant. Fuck, it has me doing it again. My name is Taylor Herbert. We are Venom. Oh boy. we're gonna have. Are you ready for conversations with the symbiote?
Please, no.
We shouldn't be here, I whisper beneath a mask of black and two large white eyes. Here, being a rundown part of the docks on the side of the wall overlooking an ongoing crime. 3 men in ABB colors had a girl that looked a bit younger than me surrounded. I personally wanted to be a hero, which usually meant that I wouldn't be hesitating in this type of situation. But my other half had control issues. Like the time we punched a hole in a ship after Sophia tripped us earlier in the day. We can go where we please. Of course it would say that. I couldn't tell you the number of times I found myself
Alright,
full
look,
venom.
I gotta stop this right here.
No?
Okay. Look. This author seems to have fundamentally misunderstood something. They have put Venom on Taylor, but there's a massive, massive problem with that.
Okay, go ahead.
Venom does not exist outside of Spider-Man and the symbiote origin story.
Right.
The symbiote was an alien. It's been through like a million different things, but the one I'm most familiar with is it was a piece of alien goo that fell from space.
Yep, that's, yeah.
And it was a symbiote. And it latched onto Peter Parker for varying reasons. He found it in the park. It got out of a lab. Whatever.
Right.
But the point is, when it gets onto Peter, Peter is going through a very rough point in his life.
Yep.
He is down on his luck. He's angry. He's aggressive, and so these things begin influencing the symbiote, and the symbiote, seeing that it can get what it wants by amping up his aggression and by helping him, removing his impulse control to make him do things he normally wouldn't, that he wants to, that make him happy in the moment, begins feeding off that and reinforcing those behaviors. Because it is a sneaky symbiote. And what does a symbiote do?
Usually a mutually beneficial relationship between two organisms.
Bingo! The symbiote also doesn't have any special powers. It enhances Peter's spidey sense. It enhances his spider strength. It enhances his spider agility, I guess. Anyway, the point is,
It also takes DNA from every race it interacts with and allows the host to use a very, very, very reduced copy, sort of like Shiro, early Shiro.
Early Shiro?
Yeah, early Shiro from Fate, he could copy other swords and shit, but they could be barely used at the same capacity the actual thing could be used at. And it's because it was just like a fake. And that's basically what the symbiote does, is it takes some of the DNA, but because the entire structure of itself isn't that exact object, it can only be like, oh, well, this creature can turn invisible, the chameleon, quote-unquote invisible, using it photoreceptors and pigmentation in the skin or whatever, however chameleon does it. We can make the person we're attached to better blend in with their environment, but it's still not going to be as good as what the chameleon does.
Similarly, spider strength, not as good. Although Venom's webbing is actually better because it just copied Spider-Man's chemical webbing compound and was actually able to make it better. And because the webbing was a chemical compound and not DNA, it was much easier to replicate and improve.
Yep. But like the spider sense.
The point being, the point being that without Spider-Man, the symbiote is nothing. Even Venom only exists because the symbiote was on Peter, who was going through a rough time, and was feeding it aggression, and it fed him aggression. And then, again, one of several things happens where Peter decides he needs to get the symbiote off. He's noticed it doesn't like loud noises. So he goes to a church and rings a bunch of bells, which makes the symbiote get off of him because it's trying to get away from the noise, and it falls on Eddie Brock, who at that point has in some way had his life either directly or indirectly ruined by Spider-Man, or so Eddie Brock thinks. He hates Spider-Man. The symbiote hates Spider-Man because Spider-Man just made the symbiote leave its kick-ass home. So they team up to kill Spider-Man. Thus, Venom is born. You cannot have Venom outside of Spider-Man's canon. If they had, that's the problem.
No,
Even if you
it
had
might
the
be
symbiote,
Venom. Like I'm thinking it might be like post Spider-Man symbiote Venom.
right? And I'm saying
I also believe Venom
do that.
Uh.
Like even if it is post Spider-Man, that doesn't make any sense in Worm because there's no Spider-Man.
No, that's what I'm saying. Like, what if there was a galaxy rift or portal or whatever, and the symbiote ended up there? Like, that's my point.
Actually, there is one way they could get away with just sticking Venom into Taylor's head.
Do tell.
I mean,
If the Shard was just addicted to Marvel Comics on Earth Alpha or Earth Aleph, because the Shards can look between, can't they?
no.
Some degree, theoretically, they could.
The shards harvest data from previous cycles. So the one way you could say it's like, oh, this shard is the symbiotic adaptation shard, which was a bud from another shard, like crawlers or something, from a previous cycle in which they encountered the symbiote in.
Yeah. But now I'm just kind of amused by the idea of a lazy shard that was just super hooked on comics.
And my point being that you have to have a very, very good explanation for why Venom is in your story, because Venom does not exist without Spider-Man.
Okay, so I'm looking through the Wikipedias and Marvel databases, and it looks like Venom is one of the only symbiotes that does not have a special power attached to it. It just seems to be unusually stronger than the other ones.
That is correct, because Venom is the original symbiote.
Yeah.
All the other symbiote, like Carnage happened because I think it was Eddie Brock at the time. Eddie Brock escaped prison, and a tiny little bit of the symbiote got cut off, and there was some dude that was, like, bleeding out from when Venom busted out of his cell, and the symbiote, like, latched onto the dude's blood and got, like, weird, freaky blood powers and became obsessed with blood, and Carnage happened. It's been a super long time since I read Carnage's origin story, so I probably have it wrong, but...
Oh, this is weird.
What?
Oh yeah, apparently they actually, like, developed the Venom symbiote itself for the Earth 616 stuff and has the name Clintar. And its first partner was actually Deadpool in this one. Oh, God.
Alright, so...
That's
moving on
horrifying.
with their blatant fucking inability to get anything right.
Yeah, I'm sorry. I had to bring that up because it's something people tend not to think about, but it's an especially big problem if you're doing something like this.
I mean, I know,
where,
that's exactly my point, though. We've brought this up a couple other times, not specifically this, but shit, like, when you're doing crossovers, you really gotta think about the thing you're crossing over, because sometimes it's not possible. Like,
because here's the thing,
unless you,
Venom with Taylor is a cool and interesting idea, but you can't do it.
Caveat. Unless you go for a cracky story, or you just wave your hands and say, I don't fucking care about canon at all, I want to do my special Mary Sue story, then you can totally do it. But then you're just a shit writer. Not necessarily on the crack part, but crack is, usually way easier to do because you don't really care about plot too much.
Well, and because with crack, you're hand waving it.
Yeah. But, like, you're doing it on purpose then, with the intent to be funny. If you're just, like, waving your hands like, oh, I don't care about canon, I just want Taylor to have, in this case, Venom! Okay, well, then you're dumb. I hate to break it to you. Then you're just dumb. While it might be a good idea, while it might be cool, you're gonna have to think real long and real hard about how to get that to happen then. Otherwise, it's just an ass
Oh,
pull. And so you're starting
alright.
off with a massive ass pull.
What's
which is
wrong, Max?
Well, I
bad
decided to read
graphics.
ahead in the chapter. This is Marvel Venom because it mentions missing Eddie and Flash.
No.
Oh God! And it was Eddie. It went through Eddie and Flash. Oh my
Well,
God!
it did go through both of those, and
No, it did, but
but like, I think that might be my favorite Venom though, because he went from being a dickwad with Eddie to I gotta save people because of Flash's sense of responsibility and duty.
well, no, and that's always been the thing that's interesting about the symbiote is that the symbiote's personality is largely determined by who's wearing it at the time.
Yeah, but what's interesting is there was a version apparently where like after leaving Flash, it ended up actually liking the feeling of saving people. So it would, I think it had a partner where it would actively try and sabotage him to keep him from doing bad shit.
Yeah. Oh yeah, I remember that one.
Yeah.
And I do remember there was a point briefly before it was attached to that guy where it tried to be off on its own, just trying to do good things. But it's like I'm not doing this correctly.
I'm goo. I can't do anything. Like,
Well, no, the symbiote actually is, depending on what time it is, when it is in the timeline, the symbiote can actually maintain the form of Venom without a person sometimes.
seems very inconsistent.
Yeah, it's Marvel, so obviously. Look, I went onto the Marvel database, and there's over 100 different versions of Venom. Okay.
No. There's all. Is that including all the times where Venom was with like other people? Like,
No,
oh
like
God, who
100
gave Frank
alternative.
Castle the symbiote?
Oh no,
Alternative.
okay,
versions
Max,
of
that
Venom.
was what we called a bad thing.
Who gave what a Huda?
Someone decided, oh, I'm gonna give Frank Castle the symbiote for a comic run, and this is like 1980s, 1990s Punisher.
I'm sure that
No,
went
that
well.
was back when the Punisher was really hardcore.
It's actually weird, but I think the Punisher is not as hardcore as he used to be, and that's weird to say.
Oh no, he's not. Because the 1980. If you look at like the style that Batman was drawn in during like the 1980s, it's much dark. Like comics in the 1980s went through a very dark period. Like
Oh, yeah, no,
dark
look at
shading,
like
dark storyline.
yeah, no, look at old Batman. Like Joker was fucking horrifying in those.
I mean, shit. The 80s were when they killed Todd. Not
What
the
the
little shit.
fuck is this? Okay, get back on track, because this is some high level what the fuck is going on here. Alright, so, they're blah blah blah, they're gonna rape the girl, blah blah blah.
What the fuck?
They're blah blah blah, edgy scene, blah 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 blah. Wow, she's got bigger breasts than Emma. Man, genetics. Blah blah. My former host would have agreed. A manifestation of her other half. Black as its main body appeared on the girl's exposed shoulder. So, it looked like a chestbuster from an Alien movie. I really couldn't remember. Not that it mattered when the ABB assholes were about to permanently scar a girl. In moments like this, he would say,
Sorry about that headphone
"Sploosh,"
call.
but with semen.
Oh, Jesus Christ, they're using Deadpool. God damn it.
I shuddered as it used my mom's voice. There were things I never wanted to hear my mom say. Blah blah blah, we're gonna kidnap and rape you. Failed ellipses. Screw letting her pick, just give me the knife. Blah blah blah, blah blah. I love the fear in your eyes, girl. I love seeing it. I'm in a mostly black suit with a white spider on my abdomen. My mask covered all of my face. My hair became long tendrils.
That was a later development in Venom.
I really need to catch up on
What a
this fucking
coincidence, we
anniversary.
call out with an exaggerated amount of glee. So do we. We leap into the air. Translation, full body cast. Blah blah blah. I punched them in the ribs, cracking them, costing them about $37,000. Colon. A kick to the knee shattered it. Colon. Knee replacement. $35,000.
All right, author.
Semicolon.
Venom,
Grabbing
Venom
his
never,
arm
to my
to
knowledge,
use him as
Venom
a
never
bat.
possessed a doctor,
Priceless.
and Taylor wouldn't know this.
Jesus Christ, he's trying to be like, oh lol, it's a Deadpool combat moment where he talks to himself as he does damage to someone. Ha ha ha! Isn't this so funny? Why is no one laughing?
Like, here's my biggest disappointment with this is the idea of the Venom symbiote post Eddie Brock on Taylor would be very, very interesting because, as we see at the start of Horror, Taylor starts out as a pretty good person, all things considered. And to see her warring with the Venom symbiote would be interesting. But this... Alright, first of all, we need to have a chat about Deadpool. Deadpool is a very unique run of comics, and Deadpool goes through periods of up and down. And when it is in a down period, it's because the person who's writing it cannot properly balance
The serious
the
and the
comedy
humor.
and the seriousness. And I do not fault a writer for that because it's a very difficult balance. But when done properly, Deadpool is fantastic. This author is not doing it fantastically. And I don't fault them for that, but it's still bad and should not be done. Sneaky, what are your thoughts?
No, Isley says this is a Sherlock scene. No, Isley. This is a Deadpool scene because they finished the scene with the whole blank thing A, money, blank thing B, money, blank thing C, priceless. It's like the fucking ad. That's a Deadpool scene. No, I agree with you, by the way, for the whole Deadpool thing. With the whole ups and downs and the authors not knowing how to write. Like, the authors not knowing how to write is basically the theme of this podcast. Am I wrong?
Yes, that is in essence the theme of this.
Anyway, we follow through with our plan with inhuman quickness. We snap the ankle, blah blah blah. Exhale, and the large man crumple. May tries to run, but our webs burst out of our wrists, and we catch her. We drag her towards us. She's desperate to escape. She cuts the web with the serrated part of her knife, but it does nothing. We aren't stupid enough to assume she's given up. Semicolon. We just can't help but enjoy how stupid people are. What? We raise her up to the face. She stabs us in the neck. It feels like a prick of a needle. Isn't it so wrong for feeling zero remorse? This is fun. You're despicable, we hiss together. Me and my other half. The ABB bitch is crying, calling me a monster even though she was about to mutilate a defenseless girl. The long tongue wraps around the hilt of the knife and pulls it out from our throat. You and all your kind. You are kind. Honestly, I'm not even surprised at this point. That sounded way less racist in my head. Good job, Taylor. Preying on the defenseless, bringing nothing but misery. We will not have it. Jesus. Blah blah, hindbrain, blah blah, shooting the gun with our webs. Blah blah, the police won't show up here. Blah blah, Russell. Blah blah blah, it's the woman we were trying to save. Oh, forgive us for being rude. Wow, this is super awkward. How do I even handle this? Semicolons abound. Ellipses abound. Like, look, I am actually offended when people use ellipses improperly because I use ellipses. Quite often, because of the pacing of my writing. The tempo of my writing induces ellipses. This is not an ellipses thing. Like, this is not a slow, drawn-out pause where people are thoughtful or trailing off. Like, this is abrupt. That's where you use fucking hyphen. Just
What, like when someone's getting interrupted?
no, like when they're like being abrupt about it, like in
Oh,
this
yeah.
part right here.
They just suddenly cut off.
The nurses in the hospital weren't exactly welcoming, and the doctors were as distant as the nurses. ... Like, instead of the ellipses there, because then they follow up that with, you know what? Fuck it! It should be a hyphen of, you know what? Fuck it! Like they're ending the thought and just saying, fuck that previous thought, we're moving on. But instead they're like, they were just as distant as the nurses. Trails off into thought. You know what? Fuck it. Like, could work, except you're kind of setting the whole pacing of the story to be really fast. And not thoughtful and slow. So it doesn't work if you use an ellipses there. I know what I'm talking about. This is the one few things I can say with relative certainty I'm not crazy on.
If that helps you.
5 glowing reviews on this story. Yeah. This is...
Well, because here's the thing, like, I'm interested in seeing how it goes, but, like...
I would be interested
I'm
if the author wasn't incompetent.
Yeah, it wasn't handled well. The idea is intriguing. I'm legitimately curious, like, how would this change things? But it was not done well.
This is so cringy. You're safe now. We are Venom. Thank you. This isn't no, please. We interrupt appreciatively. There's no need to thank us. My other half.
Oh no, I mean
words
Sneaky.
to me.
That's more or less accurate to what was going on with Eddie Brock Venom, or not Flash Thompson Venom.
What? No, get ready for it. It's not. We're not
Okay.
there yet. My other half whispers some words, and feeling confident they sounded perfectly heroic, I recited them. Your joy is reward enough and sends us leaping happily on my way. We lift our arm towards the nearest roof, but freeze halfway. Yeah, we probably should have called the cops. Maybe an ambulance?
No,
Why?
okay, but Sneaky, once again, that is more or less in line with what was going on when Flash was trying to make Venom be a good guy, because Eddie was like trying to sound, or not Eddie, I keep saying Eddie. Flash was trying to be heroic, because the thing you have to remember about
No,
Flash
I'm aware.
Thompson
I'm just
he was
saying
a
I don't
huge
think...
nerd. He was a huge superhero nerd, so he doesn't actually know how to sound heroic. He thinks he does.
Yeah, I'm aware, and I don't think Taylor, I don't think Taylor, who upon getting bug powers decided to make a fairly evil-looking bug-based costume, calling herself Skitter, would be like, yeah, this mildly sort of creepy, rapey thing, I should say that out loud to people. She is not that intelligent when it comes to something she sets her sights on, but she's not dumb enough to just be like, yeah, this super stupid thing to say, I'm just gonna blurt this out in a non-heat of the moment, non-stressful scenario.
Fair enough.
I mean, again, if it was something like, we're just happy you're safe or something like that, I'll buy that. But your joy is reward enough and sends us leaping happily on my way? Like, are you telling me no one would go... Wait a second.
Like I said, fair enough.
It's just... Taylor's supposed to be smart. And... well, she does fairly... She's got a high int but low whiz at the start of the story.
Pretty much.
That's how I'm gonna put it. She's like, I'm gonna get this really good armor, and this really good name, and doesn't really think of the consequences of that when confronting other people, because now she looks evil and sounds evil, but she's smart. And this doesn't feel like Taylor at all. This feels really like a child took a crayon and drew Taylor, and that's how the author is representing her.
Yeah.
Oh, she didn't call herself scared. Just need to point that, dude. It's been like a couple years now since I've read Worm, but yeah, you fair enough. That's good enough point. She still did make the super creepy villainous armor though. That was still all on her. Why bother? They would spill the blood of an innocent. Of course, it would say that. Is that right? Atin? Max?
I'm sorry, what?
The whole blood of the
About the
innocent.
cops, I'm not sure because like the issue is that like the Venom I'm most familiar with is the one from the 90s animated cartoon. And partially familiar with the one from when Spider-Man got thrown forward in time and was oddly civilized. That was weird. I should track that cartoon down again. I don't remember half of it. He might have a point considering where they were at though, because I'm pretty sure there was police corruption in that city somewhere. I feel like that was a major plot point
Yeah, I mean,
in
it
a couple
also,
of Spider-Man comics.
yeah, I didn't really like. I was aware of the Flash Thompson run, but only peripherally because I was like, that sounds dumb.
Yeah, in the Flash Thompson run, I think there were 2 or 3 versions of it. The one I'm familiar with was Agent Venom, where he had lost his legs on in the course of duty.
No.
Oh yeah, yeah, yeah,
And
yeah,
was
yeah.
picked for the project and was like, you have a 1 hour time limit. And the issue I just happened to pick up was like, I have to go past the time limit because otherwise we're all dead.
Mm-hmm.
That was probably the first thing of like, oh, hey, the symbiote's starting to pick up some things from Flash. Cool. So I would have to dig into the histories of Flash, Eddie, Deadpool, and probably a handful of other hosts that Venom might have had in the 616 timeline. Because there's a good chance he got someone who just did not have a good run-in with cops and had to watch, I don't know, probably a loved one or something die in Crossfire. But
Anyway,
I'm
so
not wasting hours to research.
Taylor goes, heroes don't leave people die. Not true, they left us. And then the symbiote gives Taylor a memory. Blah blah. No, that's not quite right. Outline of a girl's looking at. She's transparent.
Aisha, blah blah blah. She has a different power.
You spaced out for a minute. Don't tell me that bitch caught
Is
you
that
with a
supposed to be
knife.
anti-Venom in that flashback?
Yes.
I can assume so.
We are
What?
so much more than Venom ever was. I'm assuming yes, that's anti-Venom.
This is Venom. Thank you, Google. I don't know. Wait, did they? What the fuck? When did this happen?
I mean, that's from 616, so
So
Yeah,
electrical
I'm
skateboard and electrical longboard
looking at it,
appear to
but-
be hosting bots.
I'm sorry, what'd you say, Sneaky?
Electrical skateboard and electrical longboard appear to be hosting bots that host small-time streamers.
Huh. Neat.
No, fucking God, this is
Okay,
one of the
so
reasons that I
yeah,
fucking hate Google.
anti-venom was left over from after Eddie was debonded from Venom. Comic book shenanigans happens. The symbiote gets fused with his white blood cells. Blah blah blah. But no. If it was anti-venom, it wouldn't be beating up Eddie.
Yeah, that's what I'm trying to figure out. That's why I'm confused here. This is gonna bother me now.
Anyway, blah blah blah. She's invisible. I triggered all parahumans fainted. When another parahuman triggered. Was that why I saw a man in a white suit? The girl looked at her hands. Shifting emotions. Sorry, it was rude of us to assume you had the ability beforehand. The only person that ever come with me was Emma. She's like, what the fuck, what the actual fuck? I'm pretty sure I had the same reaction after I woke up not being able to breathe. Do you have a phone? Is there anyone I can call? Greetings, we are Venom and Aisha is currently having a panic attack. Please identify yourself.
And here's my problem with this. They've now completely gone away from what Venom would have sounded like. Like, once again, Venom was bad at this. Like, the Venom symbiote would have been like, this is Venom, we have Aisha, come help her. And then hang up.
Yeah, and it's just, I wasn't about to give Aisha to a pimp. Wait, holy shit, she might be a prostitute.
Rude.
Bottom line, interesting idea, poorly handled, the end.
Yes. Greetings, who are you, blah, blah. I'm her brother. His voice deepens. We think he's trying to intimidate us through the phone. Where is my sister? We're in an alleyway near the exit that leads to downtown. You know what? Just meet us at Fugly Bob's near the market. I'm pretty sure Aisha could use a soda. We don't wait for the reply and we turn off the phone. We then pick up Aisha before shooting off into the air. I am sad. I do not know why.
Okay.
Miss Eddie and Flash. Okay. Punctuation.
Okay, I'm back.
I realize the symbiote thoughts are gonna be a bit simple, but you gotta make sure to use punctuation so it doesn't sound like Eddie is female. Miss Eddie and Flash, but Taylor is nice. She doesn't hurt us like Eddie did, but trusts us more than Flash ever could, so why am I so sad? To Eddie, I was everything. To Flash, I was his partner. To Taylor, I'm another part of her. She cares about us like family, so I treat her like she deserves to be treated. She doesn't know how cruel humans can be. Not yet. Not
I
ever.
take significant umbrage with that statement. Like, it would know that she does. Like, she triggered in a biohazard-filled locker.
One shot down, two shots down, 5 shots down. Let's go. We can count to 10. We're not drunk enough. oh. And because she will be a part of me, like I am a part of her, she doesn't need to know what we are. Not yet, not ever. Still sad, but can't dwell on it now. Taylor needs us. Thank you for contributing.
He's too inconsistent with the way that Venom is portrayed. Like, I can forgive it when it's Venom and Taylor talking. He's not really forcing himself on her like he initially did with Eddie and Spider-Man, and presumably like he did with Flash in their early like career.
Yeah, I was
But
gonna say it.
if we're going to go into Venom's head, I want some consistency at least. Venom should be referring to itself as we and us.
Well, and not just that. Now I could understand Venom not having to force itself on Taylor because, initially
about the
Venom didn't
author's note,
force
I'm
itself
getting
on
some
Spider-Man, and it wouldn't have to force itself on Taylor because Taylor would just assume that Venom was some freaky, weird power set.
Which, to be fair, it is. It just doesn't work the way that normal power sets
Yes,
do.
I'm just saying she wouldn't be fighting. Like, she would fight to try to keep her sense of self, but she wouldn't be fighting it in the way that someone from their unit from the Marvel universe would, because they would know what the Venom symbiote is.
Yeah. Also, going through the wiki again for the 616 Venom, because I guess I am passingly familiar with that one. If Peter had just sucked it up and
Suck it.
kept the symbiote, things would have turned out a lot better. All he needed was some therapy and counseling. Because, like, initially, the symbiote just wanted to bond with him, and that was it. But that scared the shit out of him.
So what you're saying is if Peter hadn't been a dumbass bitch, then things could have been better. Wow, that sounds a lot like pretty much almost every story.
Because, like, I don't think the comic, I don't think the 616 Venom is the same one as the 90s one, where it
No,
was
616 is the
actively
most
a
recent canon.
well, yeah, but like there was also a couple before it, but like the 90s Venom was just straight up a malicious piece of
Sixfold.
shit. And it heightened negative emotions slowly over time. That one was actively a danger to Peter. The 616 one, actually nothing was wrong with it at all. It wasn't heightening any kind of emotions, and it actually really liked working with him.
So, to bring some not rage back into our hearts, we're going to go with this obviously, hopefully, a shit post.
Yeah, I'll be back while you pull it up.
Harry Potter. Misako marries Suzuki Davis and the Order of the Phoenix. Misako marries Suzuki Davis is the Heckin Kawaii Makohoto Koro transfer and an angel in disguise. She also has an iPhone in 1995 and is super famous on Instagram. Misako's divine destiny has led her to Hogwarts, and she must do everything in her power to lead Dumbledore's army, help the Order of the Phoenix, and maintain her social media presence. Can she do it all? Who knows? Now, I don't know if this is a continuation of previous fics, and I'm not sure I want to know. But I'm just going to assume it isn't. And have us all suffer 5 times over. Alright? Everyone clear what's about to happen? What's about to happen?
Okay, I'm
Shut
back.
up, Isley. Let me suffer.
Okay, anyway, so
As always, it can be found in the panels down below. I think my sense of fun has been killed by the previous fic. Well, don't worry, because we're not going to be having any fun here. This is just going to be pain and suffering from here on out. Misako Mary Suzuki Davis walked briskly towards King Cross Station, drawing a lot of attention in one of her daily Japanese Lolita outfits. Today, she was wearing the most expensive dresses on the Lolita market. Baby the Stars Shine Bright Scarlet Primera Waltz. It was a beautiful princess-style dress, knee-length with long bell sleeves, fox roses sewn in, and layers of ruffles and soft hues of pink, blue, and yellow. The dress had cost 1,800,000 yen, and it was hard to disguise that Misako was part angel.
180,000. What is up with you in commas this week?
Huh? I said 100.
What is up with you in commas? You keep, like, missing the comma.
I said 1,800,000, didn't I?
Yeah, which would
Yeah,
be
you did.
1.8 million.
Yeah.
Which, granted, would fit better with the idea of it being super expensive.
Yeah, because isn't it, like, right now only $1,800? There is stuff out there.
Well, I don't think the yen is trading quite evenly with the dollar. Let me check the exchange.
Yeah, apparently, no, Isley, that can't be right.
What the fuck? Yeah, it's about a dime per yen, so they're starting to even out again. Actually, no, that's a penny. Sorry, that's a penny. What the fuck am I saying? No, I'm missing decimals.
That's about 1,600.
Yeah, give or take.
No, like, actually, according to the bank. If I went to go trade 18, sorry.
Oh no,
180,000.
according to the currency exchange right now, $1 is about 109 yen.
Yeah, that evens out just about. So that's still fucking expensive for a dress.
Okay, yes, but, however, Hillary Clinton, during the election, was in fact attacked by the media for showing up with a $15,000 cardigan. So 1.5 million yen. So there are, in fact, dresses that expensive out there. So if you're going to make the claim that this is the most expensive dress on the market, and then say it's only $1,800, sorry, $1,600.
In 95, maybe fifth most expensive. But
I've done dress shopping before. That is fancy rather than rich bitch. Yeah.
oh boy.
So, we already starting off with the author just picking a really large number and saying, man, it's so large. It can't...
No, Isley, we will be asking.
It was hard to disguise Misako was part angel when she was dressed so beautifully. You see, not only did she dress really cool and pretty, she was also part angel, a heavenly entity of love and light. Misako was basically a few pegs below demigod. Anyway.
Okay. Alright, that's the tone we're setting.
Yep.
Oh, I am angry at the use of Japanese in here. They just copy-pasted characters over.
Yeah.
Yes, this is a shitpost.
This is a shitpost. To add to the spectacle,
good grammar, dear
Misako
God.
was dragging a massive set of pale pink leather luggage. Perched on top of the pile of suitcases was a pink wicker basket that contained a sleeping Persian kitten. The luggage looked really cumbersome, but it was undetectably extended and had a permanent lightning charm on it. Misako smiled, grateful that her parents always wanted her to have the best things for school. For instance, her mother had bought her an entirely new Lolita wardrobe over the summer. Misako's parents felt so guilty for making her leave Tokyo and transfer from Mahu Tokokoro to Hogwarts. In addition, Misako was famous on Instagram, so she could never repeat outfits. Alright?
I'm now really entertained by the idea that Instagram actually started in the early 90s Japan and they just hit it for 20 years.
Chrysanthemum says she likes this pic.
Good. That's great.
She had been modeling for Japanese brands since she was 5 years old, even after she started boarding at Makahoto Koro. After aging out of the day school program, Misako was only able to do shoots and fashion shows over summers after that, so she made up for the dearth of appearance-based validation by meticulously maintaining her social media accounts. This is such a shit post, and I fucking kudos the author so much for this.
That's just absurd. At least it's better than the usual nonsense we read.
When Misako's family had arrived in the UK and completed her transfer process, Headmaster Dumbledore himself had come to their new house to talk to Misako about Hogwarts and her first day. The decrepit old wizard had given her explicit directions to walk through the brick wall between platforms 9 and 10, board the train, and then head to the prefect's compartment to meet a girl named Hermione. Misako had tried to ignore all the heads turning to gape at her and her beautiful outfit as she navigated the crowd station. As usual, people couldn't resist taking in her radiant angel allure and super interesting fashion sense. Literally every single person stared at her, their eyes following her as far as they could see. Misako had to cast a silent, wandless disillusionment charm around herself to pass through the brick wall without being gawked at by muggles.
Hey.
I'd say it's more parody than shitpost. Don't you know? All parodies are shitposts. But all shitposts are parodies. When she appeared on platforms 9 and 3/4, of course, every head turned to take in her strange appearance. But her mother's word rang in her head. I'm not even gonna pretend I know how to pronounce that. Misako lifted her head.
Would you like me to help you? I've actually got that pulled up in another tab.
Sure.
At least the translation.
Go.
Do not be afraid of different things. I'm just gonna go tap up a bunch more of these translations. Don't mind me.
Misako lifted her head high, trying to avoid eye contact and ignoring all the whispering and pointing as she beelined to the perfect compartment. My face is hurting from smiling and laughing so much.
You okay, Sneaky?
No. As Misako had excellent intuition as an angel, she...
You're losing it over there, buddy. Are you okay?
We may have to call the show on the account that Sneaky is having too much fun.
I'm sorry. It's a fucking train. It literally walking from the back compartment to the front. You're eventually gonna find the compartment you want to be in. And the other is just like, because of her angel intuition, she was able to find the compartment in a straight line.
I mean, it is a shitpost.
I know. That's why I'm laughing. She knocked politely, bowing when the door was opened by a bushy-haired girl in a scarlet and gold tie. "Oh, here she is," the girl said brightly. "You must be Misako," the girl said, smiling widely with a buck tooth missing the hyphen grin as she looked Misako up and down. "Oh, Dumbledore said you were an eccentric dresser, but I didn't think you'd be so pretty," the girl complimented, obviously dazzled by Misako. "Japanese weeb," Misako said, bowing her head quickly. Oh, I mean, thank you. She pretended to be flustered by the gratuitous compliment so the girl wouldn't be embarrassed by how weird she was being.
Yeah. Okay.
Chrysanthem's talking about reading Moonspeak, and that's nonsense, Chrysanthem. No one can read Moonspeak. I'm Hermione. Wait, did you say something?
No one said nothing.
Okay. I'm
Are you-
Hermione.
Sneaky, you're hearing
Are
voices again.
Yeah, no, are you having auditory hallucinations again?
I might have dumped a couple shots into this apple juice.
Sneaky, vodka should not be causing auditory hallucinations.
You'd be surprised what vodka can cause when you drink enough of it.
Well, I guess he's not wrong on that count.
The girl finally said and extended her hand to shake. Misako shook it awkwardly as she was not yet used to Western custom. Other perfects in the compartment were beginning...
Prefects. Come on, Sneaky. You can't be that drunk.
Let me fuck up my words in peace. Damn it.
No.
Beginning to stand and grab their bags, so the girls walked out of the doorway. Come on, you can sit with me and run, Hermione said, gesturing to the ruddy-faced ginger boy who looked equally astounded by Misako's breathtaking appearance.
Nice.
We're gonna go sit with Harry too, Hermione said with a slight tone of pride in her voice. Harry Potter, she clarified.
You okay there, Sneaky?
All right, Misako said. He goes here. I almost forgot, she said. The two students stared blankly at her. It really wasn't big news when the Japanese Moonspeak joined Wizarding Society, she explained.
Would you like to know what that apparently translates to?
Sure.
Well, it translates directly to a living boy, but I'm pretty sure the author typed in boy who lived, and that's what Google returns in translation.
Fair enough.
So, yay, we're now translating this in a similar manner to what is it? Crystal Viet? Was it Vietnamese crystal?
Yes, Vietnamese crystal.
That the script on that's
Welcome
fucking
to
hilarious.
Elfworld. I only just read about this summer. Can someone read that sentence for me? Because I'm getting confused.
Which sentence?
The second one in that paragraph.
I only just read about this summer in one of your local newspapers in August.
Okay, good. So it wasn't me
No,
being drunk.
no, that wasn't you being drunk.
That
was
wasn't
just
you.
The author finally making a mistake.
Now, here's the thing. Here's the thing, though. That's either the author making a mistake or intentionally fucking it up, because the next
We
thing
can't
after
be
that
sure at
mentions
this
her
point.
English being bad. So
That's true. Hey Max, also,
Ugh.
do you have the next chapter ready to go?
No, because
Maybe.
it says
I don't
Misako's
know.
English was so bad she didn't notice when she spoke Japanese instead. Not that her English was bad, she couldn't speak it right. It's just sometimes she spoke Japanese instead.
yeah, but I would take that sentence to mean that like she would probably stumble over words. This probably is just an author mistake, but their ass is almost
I was
immediately
just
covered
based
by that.
on the way that I've
Yeah.
interacted with people who were speaking a language that weren't speaking any
Yeah.
languages there first.
As someone
Like,
who did
for
that.
instance,
Yeah.
my buddy Leo will sometimes he speaks English damn near perfectly, but even he sometimes will still occasionally get frustrated and just say a word in Portuguese, and we'll look at him like, "Huh?" He's like, "Oh, right, sorry, I said that in Portuguese." So, it happens.
She was really smart and intuitive, though, so she wasn't worried about being able to understand and speak the language by next week or so. The two prefects looked at Misako with slight awe. You don't know? The ginger boy stared at her. Harry Potter is in our year. He's our best mate.
Okay, this is set like in the middle of the series, isn't it?
Yeah, it's
seems to
Order of
be.
the Phoenix.
Ah. Was that mentioned in the summary and I just
Yes!
wasn't here for that?
It's also in the title! This is Misako Mary Suzuki Davis and the Order of the Phoenix!
You think I read the titles of the shit you post all
Yes!
the time, do you?
Yes!
It's literally part of the link!
Sneaky, I actually ignored titles to save myself sanity, and I walked away to go get my dinner when you were reading the summary.
Alright.
I don't think you understand the odd habits I picked up to retain sanity when dealing with certain people.
Thank you. I'm glad I'm part of your habits. How interesting, Penny said. Sorry, Misako said. Not sure why they seem to be bragging about being friends with him. After reading about the legitimate Hogwarts champion's death in the final task of the Triwizard Tournament, she thought Potter seemed like a kind of sketchy dude. Of course, as an angel with divine intuition, she knew he wasn't lying about Voldemort's return, but she still didn't have a good feeling about him. They seemed satisfied by her feigned interest, so they walked briskly ahead to the compartment where the messy-haired boy sat waiting. Unlike Ron and Hermione, he was in muggle clothes, and it looked really threadbare and shabby, particularly compared to Misako's really amazing look. When he laid eyes on her, Harry's jaw dropped. He quickly closed it, but he swallowed a visible lump and started shaking slightly. Ron and Hermione took the bench seat across from him, so the only spot big enough for Misako in her dress was the two seats right next to Harry. Moonspeak, I'm sorry, Misako said, allowing herself to flush in pretend embarrassment as she prepared to ask a question as a mere pleasantry. Is it alright if I take these seats? I'm sorry, my petticoats are really huge, she said coyly. No, of course, go right on, Harry said in a surprisingly charming voice. Misako gave him a genuine grin, and he beamed back at her, seeming a bit brighter. One of the uncontrollable magical side effects of being part angel was that Misako tended to make people cheerier or more attractive by smiling at them.
I'm sorry, I've just half tuned this thing out at this point.
Can our two religious experts confirm that being smiled at by an angel makes you more attractive?
I can't confirm that, but I can confirm that if you wrestle one and win, you'll get a free blessing.
That is still the best thing in the Bible.
I'm fucking
one of the-
sorry.
Oh, that's one of the best things in the Old Testament.
No, okay, hold on.
Was like, hey,
We need to
angel, give me a
properly set
blessing.
this up. So, do you know, Sneaky, you know who Jacob is, right? Jacob's
Yeah.
Ladder? So Jacob had a real swell thing going for him. His life was pretty great, but he decided it wasn't good enough. So one day, he finds an angel, and he tells the angel, yo, give me a blessing. And the angel's like, fuck off, dude, your life is fine. And Jacob's like, give me a fucking blessing. And so they start beating up the angel.
Keep in mind, by the way, the angel was trying to get up the ladder to get back to heaven. He was an important duty shit.
And Jacob mugged an angel, okay?
Mugged an angel for a blessing. That's pretty hardcore, I'm gonna say.
Yeah.
But that's what happened, yo.
If I remember it all correctly, he didn't actually win. And the angel also dislocated his hip for the rest of his life. But the angel
But he got
realized
that
it was
blessing.
because Jacob would not let go. He's like, all right, fine, take the blessing and let me go.
Yeah, it was more of a Jacob was like, "I'm not letting go till you give me a blessing," and the guy's like, "Fine." Max, it went on for what, a day and a night?
I think it was a full night at least, like a
Yeah,
full 8 to 12 hours.
Yeah, like Sneaky, this went on for at least 12 hours, and the angel's like, "Oh my god, fine, get off. Here's your blessing. Now get off of me." Like I
Bible's
said,
got some
he
really
mugged
interesting
him
stuff.
for a blessing.
Yeah, the Bible's got some really interesting stories in the Old Testament. The Old Testament has the scariest stories and also some of the best.
Anyway, moving on. She made a mental note to smile at Hermione this year, as the girl could use a facial upgrade. Not too much, though, she told herself. Even though Misako had perfectly pure heart of gold, she still enjoyed being the most beautiful girl at school. That's not a pure heart of gold, then it's a heart stained by pride. The heaviest of sins, by the way. There was no way in heck she was gonna change that with her own powers. Also, just so you know, Misako was such a perfect angel, she never cussed ever, even in her private thoughts. Have I lost the two of you?
No,
No,
I'm
nope,
still here. I'm
still here.
enjoying this shit post.
Misako lifted her long, thin, exquisitely carved, scepter-tipped cherry wand and silently levitated her entire luggage set to the overhead storage. It arranged itself perfectly, stacking the multiple suitcases very precisely. Hermione looked super impressed by
Okay,
that.
Isley. Isley mentions this angel has never encountered Legos.
To be
A
fair,
valid point.
this is a valid observation.
And I love Legos. I just hate when I forget to pick them up off the floor.
They are Hell's Daggers. Oh wow, did you practice non-verbal spells early in Makohota Koro? We don't even have to do them in class until we're in 6th year. No, Misako said casually. It just came really naturally by the time I started boarding at the school. The Hogwarts students looked at her in confusion, and she realized they probably didn't know much about the Japanese wizarding school. Oh, Makohota Koro is a little different than Hogwarts. They take students starting at 7, but we don't board at the school until we're 11. So this is my 8th year of schooling, said Misako. Bloody hell, Ron roared crassly. That's just unnecessary. I don't know, man. If you ever encountered British, saying bloody hell is like fucking saying hi.
Yeah, well, depending on where you're at.
Yes, depending on where
'cause
you're at.
the legit, like, one of the jobs my mom used to work, they had some people coming over from England, and they were told, do not use the word bloody in front of them. Like, they were at risk of losing a contract if they offended these people. One of them apparently really didn't like cussing.
That's right.
Completely unrelated side note. Remember, today is a very special and important day in WoW history, Sneaky. Today is the day of Leroy Jenkins.
Yes, indeed. I'm sure WoW is celebrating that.
What's Leroy Jenkins doing now?
I believe he's dead.
I think he is dead.
Oh.
He,
Okay.
ate a
He
lot
lives
of,
on.
He ate
Terrible,
a lot of fried
terrible
chicken.
meat.
No, wait, he's not dead. He voiced Leroy Jenkins when they made him as a NPC.
That's right. Well, and then he reprised the role for the Hearthstone card.
Mm-hmm. At least he had his bucket of fried chicken. And now oodles of money! He looked like Misako had just told him she spent the last 8 years digging up baby mandrakes. She shrugged. I liked it, said Misako. It made tests last year really easily. Oh, you already took exams? Asked Hermione. We have the Owl exams this year. Ordinary wizarding levels. You have to make a certain grade in all the classes if you want to take 6th and 7th year, and then you have to take the nastily exhausting wizarding levels before graduation. Oh, I know, Misako said, trying and succeeding, and not sounding rude at all.
I really do like this author's writing style.
I give massive kudos to this author for the quality shitpost. The high effort shitpost here. All the different schools tests are internationally recognized, so I actually already have owls in all my subjects, at least as far as employers are concerned. But I'm going to take the owls this year too, just for extra reinforcement on my credentials. Misako smiled, pleased with her use of the new vocabulary. She realized all of the studying she did over the last month had completely sunk in, and she was probably not going to have any problems at all speaking perfect English. 2 sets of tests, Harry said, making a slightly less disgusted version of Ron's expression. Well, more power to you, I suppose, he said. Hermione shot him a weird look, but quickly cleared her face. She avoided eye contact with Misako, obviously hoping she wouldn't notice. The train began to move, and the group all grinned at each other. Misako felt a little out of place with the group of close friends, but she was happy to be sitting with pleasant people who at least had some importance of the student body. Suddenly, a loud meow from above Harry and Misako. Oh gosh, Puffball! Misako shrieked as she stood up, remembering her living, breathing fashion accessory.
I see no problems here. Carry on.
Yeah. I just took a look at the author's profile. Just one sentence. I write weird Mary Sue stories that make me laugh, so yes, this is a dedicated shit poster.
Excellent.
Power to you, author! Kudos to you. Hats off. Keep the rest of your clothes on. Let's keep going. One by one, she levitated to... Yeah, but anyway. So, blah, blah, she was holding the wiggling kitten like a baby, rubbing its tummy despite the obvious discomfort. Things were still spilling out of Misako's purse, so she searched for her wand, found it underneath her dress. There's a blah blah blah, it's a blah blah, it's a blah blah. She knew the elegance of her wand spoke for itself. It was a clear reflection of how beautiful Misako was. Blah blah, pure magic, blah blah, one by one she fixed everything. Oh yes, her iPhone 10, a piece of toast in her mouth. As an afterthought, she summoned her phone back to her purse before zipping the bag closed. Oh, Muggle devices don't work at Hogwarts. Electricity doesn't run there. I figured as much, looking at her phone's glitching screen. There wasn't exactly outlets at Makahotakoro either. The whole Patagoa is made out of this gorgeous white...
Pagoda, Sneaky, come on!
Patagoda.
I thought that was just you butchering pronunciation again. No, that's spelled right.
Fucking
Max, that's spelled correctly, correct?
Don't insult my accent.
Pagoda?
Pagoda,
sure
yeah.
Look,
I'm going to put,
look, New
like...
Jersey just says them differently.
I'm going to put like a penny down on it.
White mutton fat jade.
Yeah, but it's spelled correctly.
Yeah, Sneaky's just
Can
dumb.
someone confirm that white mutton fat jade is in fact a thing?
Hello, Google. How are you doing today?
So I figured out a spell to make electronics.
Oh, well,
work with
Google just
magic.
auto-completed that for me.
Oh, so it is.
Well,
a thing.
there you go.
Okay.
Oh.
Oh.
No, no, this stuff is really pretty to look at.
Okay. You did? Yeah, I created the charm that puts a spartally tessellated void inside a
Spatially?
modified temporal
Yeah,
field
spatially.
around. That's, no, so it is spatially. Around the device, and the field generates electricity and reception.
Okay.
So you're removing the phone from time and space in an area, but that somehow generates electricity and satellite reception?
See, Sneaky, she's removing it from time and space to move it to a point in time and space where there's both reception and power.
Oh, fair enough. Anyway, blah blah blah. Wow, that's amazing. Are you Muggle-born too? Oh, yep. My parents had no idea what to do with me when I started showing magic. Blah blah blah. I love my parents so much. We don't have any magic in our family at all. Blah blah blah. Misako's status as an angel and a witch had nothing to do with her biological heritage. Unknown to anyone but her and the Archangel who confirmed her angelness to her. Really an Archangel. Okay. Misako had been an immaculate conception. Okay. Again, she was more like a demigod than a servant of the infinite and abstract divine she knew the gods to be. Wait,
I think Sneaky stopped enjoying his shitpost.
So it would seem.
I'm confused. I thought
What do you-
angels were only referenced in one form of religious fiction. I mean, like, I know there's agents of every god, obviously, but specifically the term angels was only used in the Abrahamic faith. I mean, I'm not too learned on this subject, but I mean, yes, the Norse had their Valkyries, and the Egyptians had their messengers, and the Japanese had their avatars. The Greeks and Romans didn't really have any representations because they were more human than any other gods.
Yeah, I was gonna say if they wanted to talk to you, they usually showed up in person.
Yeah, I really don't think angels are used in any other.
No, I don't. I think the term angel is like exclusively in the Judeo-Christian faith.
That's why I'm really confused.
So-
'Cause she's saying that multiple gods exist, even though she's an angel. But if she's an angel, then she's the angel of the one god.
I mean,
Angels have sometimes been used as a placeholder for the follower spirits given to a pantheon god in fiction. That's fair enough. That's fair.
yeah, this just seems like something that's, popularized by fiction. So,
Okay, fair enough.
all right then.
Blah. Blah blah blah. I charmed my stuffed animals to move. You never told me that. Hermione scouted him. I never wanted to brag considering you had 5 older brothers. What do your parents do? Are they in Japan? My parents are dentists, Hermione interjected. Misako smiled at her, even though she would have found it rude and annoying if she wasn't a pure angel who never had bad thoughts about anyone. What kind of angel are you again? Because I'm remembering bits and pieces of the Old Testament.
Well, technically, the angels didn't have bad thoughts about anyone. They were just responsible for carrying out God's will.
Well, up until the Morning Star shit, angels did have free will, so it's not impossible to assume they probably did occasionally talk shit at each other.
Yo, man, my wings are bigger than yours, man.
Yeah.
Okay, look, they might be bigger, but I have 8 and you have 6.
It ain't about how many you have, man. It's about how you use them.
Oh my God, Sneaky.
What the fuck is this conversation? It's 9 o'clock, by the way. It's 9:01.
What a way to end tonight, boys and girls. Thank you anyone who joined us this far for this living shit post of a podcast. As always, the previous week's episode will be uploaded and archived to the YouTube page, which can be found in the links down below. I appreciate you all either coming this far or watching to this point, whether it's live or archived. Tell people about this, because honestly, gotta spread the love.
Maybe not your religious acquaintances, though.
No, definitely get the religious one.
Definitely get the religion.
God.
Good night, everybody. And as always, remember, there's always more, and it always gets worse.